All right, I've got a little box. Oh, okay. Read the little box. All right, I have some artwork for you guys. And first of all, this is the last week that we're going back over. Do you know that huge list of artists that was in chapter 2? Maybe you remember. The last two that I'm going to bring in are very, very famous artists. One of them, probably both of them, one of them for a silly reason, you probably know his name. But the other one, just because he's super famous. The first one we're going to look at is Michelangelo. I know people say Michelangelo, and I always heard everybody always said Michelangelo around me, so I don't care. You know what? He's not here, and he won't get mad if we mispronounce his name. So I will just have to go with the thing I'm used to. Here's what Dorothy Mills. I need you guys to stop talking for just a little bit. Here's what Dorothy Mills says about him. Michelangelo, aka Michelangelo, was not only an architect, he was also a painter, a sculptor, and a poet. This guy could do anything. And so, have you ever heard someone referred to as a Renaissance man?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means he likes to draw.
Maybe, but more than that, if somebody is a Renaissance man, Michelangelo was a Renaissance man. I mean, literally and figuratively. He can do everything. Do you know, have you noticed that in modern times, people tend to specialize? You know, you learn one thing and you get really good at that thing, but that was not always so, and that was not always considered a good thing. If you could do multiple things well, this was the ideal. So Michelangelo, what is his most famous thing? I'm sure, if I say his name, what do you think of? Just David. That is not actually what I was thinking of, but we're going to start with that. So Michelangelo was a great sculptor. This is David's head. Yeah, David is not wearing any clothes. And so we just decided to bring his head. But it's like, I don't know. Hey, Jaden, shh, shh, shh. Guys, my throat is going to be so tired in an hour and a half, and the high schoolers are going to come in, and I'm not going to be able to talk if I have to talk that loud the whole time. It's 10 feet tall, maybe. The statue is bigger than life size. And just, okay, I'm going to go on and on about this. This is a piece of stone, but look at his chest. Look at the veins in his neck and the curls of his hair. This is crazy to me. How someone can make stone look like this. Supposedly, someone asked him, how do you sculpt? You know, how do you get these beautiful figures? And he said, and it sounds so easy when he says it, well, I just see the figure in it and I take away all the stone that doesn't belong. This does not help me. I don't see the figure. But this is great. What in the world? I feel like an atomic bomb just went outside, and then we should all get under the tables. That wouldn't help.
No, I really want that to happen, and then a bunch of armies just start to come in, and then they hand me a sword, and then I cut off their head.
No, Jaden, we don't want any of that to happen. Okay, everybody, readjust.
And then I take that axe and I
readjust, because I'm about to show you maybe the most magnificent sculpture ever made. It is the Pietà. Pietà is the Italian word for piety, but also pity. In this case, it's probably more pity. It is Mary cradling Jesus's body. And I'm coming around with this. This, look at her clothes. Look at Mary's, look at his body. It's a piece of stone.
I've seen that one. Oh, actually, I've seen that in a museum.
Didn't he like go back and carve his name
I can't remember
Mary's
where it
thing
was,
because
though.
he heard that some people were saying it wasn't his?
I don't know. Quite possibly.
And also, I saw a guy make one of those. It was like his 50th year making it.
Mhm.
It was like I can't remember. It was like around here actually. It was like
Stone.
maybe no.
I feel like I could take those and move them.
Davenport.
Yeah.
Yeah, Davenport in Davenport.
Really?
A guy was making one of those. And it was like big. It was like his
Where's
50th.
the
Like he's been making
Behold.
it for 50 years, and he's
The
only been using
signature.
like
It
handheld
shouldn't be
tools,
there.
not like power tools.
I don't see a signature. I only see her clothes.
That sash right there. See how that has words on it?
I don't think they're words, but I just think they're folds of the clothes.
Oh yeah, those are those. Yeah.
Right there.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I don't think he would ruin his statue by doing that so blatantly right in the middle. And also, I think it wouldn't be very reverent to write your name across Mary. So I suspect that's just folds of the clothes, but I will look into it. So here's what I thought. Hey, Jaden, shh. Please, do you know what? I don't want to say this every time, but I feel like I am. You can't come in a class and have little conversations with each other. Like, it's not cool. If you were in a school, like some of you would be out in the hall, standing against the wall. That's what they did when I was a kid. I don't know if they do that still. It's rude. It's rude. It's rude. And if you don't learn anything about Michelangelo or Michelangelo, at least you can learn not to be rude. Okay? So that's my speech for today. Okay, this is what I thought you were going to say about this artist. He is also a great painter. And he painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican. This is a very, very large room, all right? Really large. And he painted the entire ceiling with frescoes. It took him months and months. Picture this. You're painting on the ceiling. The ceiling is up really high. You're laying on a board that is suspended from the ceiling, painting like this above your head for hours and hours and days and months. You just, and here's the thing, you can't step away. So I'm a terrible artist. I've made this perfectly clear. But you know, when you try to make a picture of some sort, you kind of want to step back and take a look at it, especially if it's big. Do you know what I mean? He can't, because he's just doing this. And then, you know, a fresco is when you spread plaster and then you paint on the wet plaster. Do you know, these walls aren't plastered, but some walls are bumpy. Have you ever seen bumpy walls in a house? You know, and they put plaster. Well, it doesn't have to be bumpy. You spread this plaster on, and while it's damp, you paint it. And the paint soaks into the plaster. So I wonder if that holds the paint. Does that make sense? So it's not, we're not talking about watercolors or really, really drippy oil paints. You know what I mean? It's very, yeah. And it didn't help this thing I was going to tell you. So the Pope hired him to do this, Pope Julius. And the Pope really wanted to get it done. He was really excited because this was a famous artist during his lifetime. Do you know what I mean? He's hired the best of the best to paint this amazing chapel in the Vatican, and he would like it done. Have you ever been working on something and somebody keeps saying, "Are you done yet? Are you done? When are you going to be done?" Or maybe you've done this to someone else. It's kind of like, "Are we there yet?" You know, don't do that to your parents. Maybe you did when you were little. Are the cookies? Is it done yet? How long is it going to be? The story is, which may or may not be true, that once the Pope came in and Michelangelo accidentally dropped some tools off of his scaffold and almost beamed the Pope on the head as a little hint. Would you please leave? You need to leave. You're bothering me. Whether it was an accident or whether, you know, there might have been some nudging involved to see if tools could fall on the Pope's head. Nobody was injured. But I think the Pope got the message and he stopped coming and knocking on the door and coming in and saying, "Are you done yet?" Yes.
Was this the same Pope that asked him to paint that big mural on the wall and then said that there were too many naked bodies and so he painted him naked in hell?
Yes, I believe so. This is a close-up of the ceiling. This is the prophet Jeremiah. It's kind of got cracks in it because of the plaster, the ceiling. Remember, this is on a ceiling. Interestingly, he painted, you know, Bible scenes. You guys have seen, I am sure, didn't have a nice big copy of this. The two God's finger reaching out to Adam's finger. You know, if you've ever seen two fingers, like in a piece of art, going, this is on the ceiling as well. This is God's creation of Adam. Yes, yes, giving him life, breathing into the breath of life. But this is Jeremiah. He also put on there though, like Greek mythological people, the Sibyls, who were the Roman prophetesses. And people are like, why would he do that? Well, because in the Middle Ages, they had a very firm grasp that any truth that ever came from anywhere is God's. If it's true, it's from God. And I don't care who said it. And so they viewed all of those mythological personages as preparation, that the world was being prepared for the actual God to come down to earth and be a human being. People like Hercules and Zeus, they were preparatory for the gospel. The Israelites had one preparation and the rest of the world had another preparation. So they were not shy at all about putting those things in their art. So this is his Jeremiah. The other artist I brought in work by is Raphael. And so Ninja Turtles is why some people know. Well, Michelangelo too. I only brought in one Raphael painting. Again, these guys lived at the same time and at the same time as Leonardo da Vinci. How do we get so many great artists at once? All right, this, yes, Jaden.
There was like, I could imagine a family tree, and there's like a mom, or a dad and a mom.
Yes.
Right? They have like 3 kids.
Yes.
Dad, mom, or they all get married.
Gotcha.
Then it starts to spread down, but the dad at the top of the tree is super, 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 super talented.
All right.
And it starts to spread down.
Do we think, I'm going to follow up on this because this is a cool thought. Okay, unfortunately for your hypothesis, these men weren't related. Well, if you go back far enough, we're all related, I guess, you know, like the sons of Noah. But do you think that sometimes talent like that is inherited? Parents or grandparents were good at something. Well, but could God not use inheritance? Like you could say my hair comes from God, but it also has to do with the color of my parents' hair. Do you know what I mean? Like they're both true at the same time, perhaps? I mean, I agree. Yeah.
Like I'm a fast runner, my dad's a fast runner, and all my family, except for my mom, is a fast runner.
If you inherited the ability to be a fast runner, but you never practiced or tried, would you be a fast runner? No. So you're going to have to do something about it. You usually can't just say, I'm probably brilliant because my parents were brilliant without trying, without working at all. There's always some work involved.
Or
I mean, if it's a
talent,
talent,
talent doesn't
there's
work
not
hard.
some talents that like you don't need to practice for.
This is true. Can you think of an example?
Breathing.
Breathing. I don't know if that's a talent. If everybody can do it, I guess people who are really ill can't do it, but we're not going to count them. We're just not counting them. Okay, we're going back to Raphael. Wow. See, you give you guys a break and then you come back and you're all hyped up. But it gives me a lot of energy. This painting, you can probably see, I'm going to talk while I walk around, okay? So this painting has a lot of people in it. You can probably see that it has a lot of people in it. It is also on a wall in the Vatican. There's a room with 4 paintings, and this is one of them. And the 4 paintings represent philosophy and science and theology and something else I can't remember. This is the philosophy. This is philosophy, and it's called School of Athens. These are all Greek philosophers, and you got to remember something. For them, philosophy meant what we call science and math. That was natural philosophy. So everything we call science that you would do in a lab, that's natural philosophy. Pythagoras, you know, like the Pythagorean theorem guy, is a philosopher. The Greeks, and so they've identified a lot of these people who they're supposed to be. But the 2 guys in the middle, they're the most important ones. There's 2 guys in the middle, and one's old. Let me come in front of the camera for Hans and the girls. 2 guys in the middle. One is old, and he's got his hand like this. He's doing this as he walks. Okay. And the other guy is younger, and he's doing this. What's the deal? Well, the older guy is Socrates. And Socrates, through Plato, taught. Okay, follow this, because this is kind of mind-blowing. That everything that exists in the world exists the way it is because there's a perfect image of it in some supernatural realm. So this is a table. We all agree this is a table. These are all tables. This is also a table. But it does not look like these tables. But we recognize, but it's kind of a table. I mean, I would put this in the class of tables. A coffee table is a table. A huge dining table is a table, but some dining tables are long like a rectangle, some are round. And here's what Plato says through the mouth of Socrates. The reason a table is because in some realm, there is the perfect form of a table. And every table is a table because it partakes of the form. So there's a form of human being, and we are human beings in as much as we participate in the form. You know, this is a book, but books come in all sizes and shapes and colors and everything. It says, but there's a form book, and this participates in the form. Anyway, this is why Socrates or Plato, I can't remember, has his finger like this. Aristotle is the young guy, and he's doing this, and he disagreed. He said, no. I don't think this form thing is a thing. I think the only reason we recognize these as tables is we abstract an idea. It exists in our head. You know, an idea of table exists in our head. So when we see something, we can say that's a table or that's not a table. I think, said Aristotle, you need to look at individual things and study individual things because that's where it's at. Socrates and Plato are like, no, look to the forms. And he's like, no, look to the individual things, look to nature. And Raphael put this in this painting. Subtly, he put, with these two guys, he gave their whole philosophy in their hand gestures, which is brilliant. And then all the guys laying around are various philosophers. The guy lounging on the stairs, I'm just going to mention him because he's funny. He's Diogenes, the cynic. The cynics were philosophers who just didn't barrel, and like he didn't wear clothes a lot of the time, and he just did like he went to the bathroom in public and stuff. He was a weird. He was a weirdo. I'm sorry, Diogenes was a weirdo. Anyway, so this is why he's lounging on the stairs away from everyone else, you know, because he doesn't care. He doesn't give a hoot what anyone thinks of him. He's going to lounge on the stairs. Doesn't care. So there's a lot of work that went into this painting. And here's the thing, a lot of knowledge of ancient Greek philosophy. To know all of these guys and what they were teaching and what they thought, it's really brilliant. So that's Michelangelo and Raphael. Next week, we're going to look at some artists that are from the north. Everybody I've shown you so far was from Italy. Like all the artwork I've shown you is from Italy. And you might think, is no one else in Europe doing any art? Yes, they are. Here's a little, actually, I will show this guy to you guys. Maybe I won't have to bring it next week. Here, do I have it? This is a guy you're going to read about next week. This is very famous, the praying hands. Dürer, Albrecht Dürer. He was from Northern Europe. It's a pencil sketch. Isn't it awesome? That is amazing.
How did it get the brown from the pencil?
Sh-
Did
sh-
it colored pencils?
Shading. I think maybe this is the reproduction makes it come out as brown, but every gradation of light is just shading. Dürer.
Yeah, you can win, like,
I think it was
All right. I think. What do we want to do next? Okay, so I collected your papers. You guys have worked hard. You've done 2 persuasive essays. We're just going to take a 1-week breather. But that doesn't mean you read next week in our Dorothy Mills books, like I said, about what's happening in the North. What was the Renaissance like in the Netherlands and Northern France and England? What's happening there? And one guy you're going to read a lot about is named Erasmus. You're going to find out about Erasmus in this next week's reading, so I'm not going to tell you a bunch about him because you're about to read it. But one thing Erasmus was really good at was writing. Well, it wasn't so much about, he was just a good writer. He was a brilliant writer in Latin. He learned Greek at a time when people were just starting to learn Greek again in Europe. And he put together a Greek New Testament. All the little bits of the New Testament they could find, he collated them and put together a Greek New Testament for study. Hey, John, you need to listen to this because this is your assignment. One thing he did was he helped write textbooks in schools, for schools, about writing. And he said, what you need to be a good writer is this. You need copia. Copia is the Latin word for an abundance or a supply. A cornucopia. At Thanksgiving, do you ever see those horn-shaped things full of fruit and vegetables? Have you ever seen a horn full of, yes, that's a cornu. That's a cornucopia. Cornu means horn, and copia means plenty, horn of plenty. When you write, you need plenty of words. If you don't know very many words, you can't write much. Do you see what I mean? That's why little kids don't write very well when they're just learning, because they write stories that only have like 30 words in them or something. Do you know what I mean? They're just really boring. And you also need ideas.
You also need legible handwriting.
Legible handwriting is very, very helpful.
Which I still lack.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Because I'm about to tell you what to do this week. So I feel like you should listen. Erasmus took a sentence. His sentence was this sentence. I want you to write this sentence down somewhere. Your letter pleased me greatly. It's a very simple sentence. It's not very long. It's got not any really difficult words. Your letter pleased me greatly. I need you to write it down, and I'm going to tell you what to do with it. Am I just sitting right in you gentlemen's way?
I'm tall.
Okay.